Did you know? School Sport Victoria offers 650,000 sporting opportunities in 31 different sports at 10,700 events across the state every single year. That's a lot of kids playing sport. And for over 25 years, the Victorian School Sports Awards have recognised more than 1,500 students, teachers and volunteers for excellence and outstanding contribution to school sport. Now that's a champion effort.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Ask School Sport Victoria show. We've got the very lovely Rachel Talleant, who's a major talent, Olympian race walker. Thanks for joining us.
No worries, thanks for having me.
No problem. We have loved having you just on our virtual track and field. You're the person who we have talked about in regard to walking. You and your brother walk like a talent, and we're pretty excited by that.
Yes, am I.
Good. And we've loved having your support there. You got 2 international championships under your belt, with I'm sure many more to come. 2015 World Championships, 2016 Rio. Now that's one thing to be selected for Rio, but it's another thing to be selected and go on the team with your brother. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was a whole lot of fun.
What was good about having your brother on the team?
Well, I guess it's not something that, can happen all the time. So having someone there that you're quite close to and can have a lot of fun with just made it even more exciting. I know that the rest of my family kind of came to watch as well, but to have him there for the whole journey, he was coaching me at the time too. So to have him there in that sense as well was really exciting.
Brilliant stuff. Now, just a quick question before we go to our special guest, our invited guest. Where did it all start for you? What was the clincher that kicked off this sport and race walking?
So it would definitely have to be my older brother, Jared. He is 8 years older than me, and I know I started when I was 7, but probably before then, because I just remember walking up and down our family's hallway, having watched him at training all the time. So it was definitely him that kind of lit that little flame in me and got me going.
I love that story, and I love your relationship with your brother. It's quite special, and you've mentioned you've had a sister as well, which is fantastic. And also Claire, who's married to Jared, is also a race walker, so it's all around you. So obviously that's a big motivating factor. There's a school of thought that I don't subscribe to, but there is a school of thought that race walking, what's race walking? It's not really a sport, just like golf or just like surfing. I don't subscribe to that. Some people do. What would you say to those people? Because, let's face it, race walking is pretty amazing. So what would you say to those kinds of people?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one, just because I tend to be in my own little bubble sometimes. But of course, when some of those things do come up, I always think back of being a little girl and being so excited to try out this new sport. And anyone that could walk up to an excited little kid and tell them that the sport that they love and that they wanted to try out is, weird and they shouldn't do it. I personally couldn't see myself doing that. I know that I was super happy doing it when I was a kid, and that's pretty much, I think, all that matters is that you're having fun and you're enjoying it. You should definitely be able to do it. And of course, there's lots of, weird and wonderful sports out there. I know that walking probably comes up a little bit more because it is part of track and field and athletics, and so it probably does look a little bit different compared to all the others, but at the end of the day, it is a sport. I think if you were to look up what sport is, it's about doing a skill, physical exertion, things like that, and that's part of what it is. Like you've got judges there watching you. You've got to do it a certain way, and try hard at it as well.
Brilliant answer, and I love that answer. It's a very good answer. We're gonna blow that theory anyway, because we've got 5 students that want to join us live today on the show. So obviously, given that this is one of our biggest shows with having students join, obviously race walking is really important. It's actually the first time, Rach, since we've had to say no to people with questions. So you have a following that's bigger than what you probably think. I'm excited by it. I know you're excited by it. We're going to go to our first guest right now, Charlotte Holmes, who's with her sister Molly and Sarah, and from St Helena Secondary College, and they've got a question for you. They're also race walkers. Did ask it. They submitted a question beforehand, which we'll get up on the screen, and what they asked was, what is the most memorable moment in your walks career?
I would like to say the Olympics, but I think it would actually be the 2016 National Championships, where I actually won, and that's what secured my place on the Olympic team. I was actually an outsider. I was an underdog. No one thought I was going to make it. I don't even think my brother did. And he was the one coaching me at the time. And I remember him telling me leading into the event, being like, oh, we'll hold off on booking any accommodation because I'm not sure, I'm not sure whether you'll be there. And I proved him right.
Wow. Incredible.
Very good. Hey, thanks for joining us, girls. We're going to keep moving with the show. We really appreciate your questions. Hope to see you in the future, and great to see you 3 as well. You're really growing up.
Thank you.
No worries. See you.
Bye.
Always nice to have some special guests on the show, and we've got someone else joining us very soon as well. But let's keep moving with the show. In regard to Tokyo not going ahead this year, is that when that announcement was made, was that a good thing in your mind, in your opinion, or from you personally, or a bad thing?
Personally, it was actually kind of a good thing for me. Not that I would want to see the Olympics postponed, but just where I was with my training and how everything was kind of going in my life at the time, it actually, I think, has worked out a little bit better, being pushed back next year. I just finished my first full-time year of my master's degree in clinical psychology, and so it had really kind of impacted my training just a little bit in the lead up, and so kind of having this year kind of off and then it being next year, it kind of just has bumped that training up and kind of allowed me to prepare a lot better.
Brilliant. Now we've got another special guest, invited guest, Mietta Morgan, who's coming on to the show just now. She's from Belgrave Heights Christian School. Hey Mietta, how are you?
Good, thank you.
That's good. Thanks for using a headset. Hey, tell me, do you like race walking yourself?
Yes.
Excellent. What do you like about race walking?
It's just really fun to do.
Very good, very good. Now, I know you can't see her real well, but she's definitely there and she's listening. Tell me, do you have a question for Rachel?
Yes. Do you get anxiety for a big race, and what do you do to help with that anxiety?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually do. I do, depending on the race and I guess how much training I've had beforehand. I think I might have said earlier, I've had a fair few injuries beforehand. And when you're going into competition not fully prepared, sometimes it can be quite hard and obviously bring up some of those anxious thoughts. You get a little bit worried that you probably won't compete as well as you want to. And I actually use a lot of different techniques. One of my more favorite ones is, I don't know whether you've ever heard of it, mindfulness. And it's where you can, I usually listen to a recording because I find all of my kind of negative thoughts and worried thoughts kind of come in more often than not the night before the race, when you're trying to get that really good, well-rested sleep and your mind is just racing because all you can can't stop thinking about the race the next day. So I tend to use a lot of mindfulness recordings to listen to, but then I also work with a sports psychologist to kind of help me not only get in the zone, but kind of turn some of my kind of unhelpful thoughts into maybe more helpful ones.
Now, you've asked the right person, Mietta, because she's actually studying a master's in psychology. So she's not only got all the answers from her own experience, but she's got the great answers too around anxiety. Now, we're going to keep going with the show, but I think you've got Eden joining us very shortly. So we'll let you get set up with Eden and we'll keep moving. Great to have you with us, Mietta.
Thank you.
Hey, good luck in your race walking.
Good, thank you.
All right, we're going to keep going. Now, it is, I know I just touched on it, but it is quite remarkable, Rachel, that you've been able to study not only at a, an intellectual level in terms of university, but to study at a master's level. That's pretty remarkable to continue on the career that you have been in terms of an elite athlete. But on top of that, people probably don't understand the kind of ATAR score you need to get into psychology. It's not low, it's very high. So you must have certainly put in the hard yards for training and for school during your schooling years. Would that be accurate?
I wouldn't say my ATAR was that high, but I do remember my year 12 year, and obviously spending a lot more time maybe studying than training. I actually think it was probably good that year I got injured as well and could spend a lot of time studying. But I think it's been more as I've gotten older and I've gone to university that, being able to find something that you're passionate about has made it a lot easier to kind of follow that path and kind of keep studying, and because it is something that I want to do, obviously, once I can no longer walk at this kind of level anymore.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Now we've got Eden, who is the brother of Mietta, who's just joining us now. Eden's also from Belgrave Heights Christian School. How are you, buddy?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. And he's sporting, like his sister, the state track and field little athletic shirt. We love it. That's awesome. Hey, tell me, what do you like about race walking?
It's not your usual sport that you would think of, but I kind of like it because I don't know, it's been around for a while, but I kind of like the technique, and it's something that it's hard to do, which is good. So when you get into it, it's really good to do.
Very true. Do you play any other sports?
No, I just do athletics generally during the summer season and cross country during the winter season, yeah.
Very good. If you had to pick a distance of race walking, what would be your kind of ideal distance? What do you like the most?
I generally like the longer distance. I find I'm good endurance, so I like doing the longer distance, probably about 10K, I'd say, was the furthest I think I could manage.
Hey, Rachel, what's the most you've competed in terms of distance?
The longest distance I've done is 20 kilometres in a race.
It's a long way. Okay. Eden, what's your question for Rachel?
What has been your biggest setback in your walk career? How did you overcome it? And what tips do you have for young athletes that face setbacks as well?
Good question.
That's a really good question. And I feel like it's a couple of questions in one. So my biggest setback would probably be some of the injuries that I've had. My biggest injury was actually in the lead up to the Olympic Games in Rio in 2016. I had just gone overseas to Switzerland on a very nice altitude training camp, and about 3 weeks in, I think, or 4 weeks, I got a stress fracture, or a fracture in my femur, so in my quad, bone in my quad, and it was very painful. I actually couldn't walk on it anymore. I had to go on crutches for 2 weeks, and I had to leave all of my training partners and my brother behind and go to a medical facility in Italy on my own to be looked after by the doctors and physios there, so that they could hopefully get me to the Olympic Games, which was only in a couple of weeks' time. And I remember at the time the doctors telling me that, don't worry, your leg's not going to break, so you can still walk on it, it just might be painful. And I remember being like, oh, that doesn't sound that great. So that was probably one of my biggest setbacks, and it's actually taught me a lot from having that injury. I did have more, unfortunately, afterwards, but I've learned a little bit more about myself and the kind of training that works for me best. I think earlier in the show I kind of mentioned I would often try to do what other people did for training. And so the way I kind of overcame it was definitely working with my physio at the Australian Institute of Sport and working out what we kind of call it training load and what works best for me. And so I guess the last part of your question, I think, was what I would say to probably someone else going through a setback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they were going through a similar setback like that, I'd probably tell you just not to lose hope. Everyone's kind of different, and you don't necessarily need to be doing what everyone else is doing to kind of be the best or be at the top of your sport. There are lots of ways around it, and as long as you fill yourself with a lot of knowledge and expertise from people in different areas, it can definitely help you kind of get there and achieve what you want to achieve.
Pretty full answer there, hey Eden. That was a good answer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually. It was really helpful.
Some good tips for you. So hopefully you'll be able to measure the signs or read the signs when you're sensing an injury and taking a break and stepping back and letting your body rest and relax and recoup. It's really important in that.
Definitely for sure. Thank you.
We're about to talk about something interesting with Rachel. Did you know that she had a stress fracture while she competed at Rio?
I have been told about it actually, yeah, but it's pretty tough going through something like that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Tough is an understatement. You're so right. I can't even walk 1 kilometre on an injury like she had, but she did 20 kilometres. Amazing stuff. So we're going to get to that question now. Hey, thanks heaps for joining us, Eden. We will see you shortly, I'm sure, and good luck with your race walking.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Now tell me, Rach, how did you do? Did you, going into Rio, did you know you had a stress fracture, or did you find out like after you were selected?
No, so after I was selected. It actually occurred while I was at the training camp.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just out training one day. I was doing a speed session. We were doing 10 1K reps. And I was like, oh, my quad feels really weird. I kept trying to stretch it, but then it wasn't tight, didn't really need to stretch it. But with every kind of footstep on the ground, it was like a bit of pain kind of running through my leg. And I remember telling my physio later that afternoon, and they do a little kind of test on your leg. And it was very painful, and I could just kind of see it in his face. He knew exactly what it was. One of the other girls on the team had actually had one earlier in the year. So he'd actually treated someone with the same injury before. And I had to get a scan the next day, and I didn't walk again on the road until the week of the Olympics after that.
Pretty amazing stuff though. Like that must have been, I mean, I'm going to understate this. I couldn't imagine how hard that must be. You've just made it to the pinnacle of your sport and you're at training camp. You are ready to, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. That would have been really tough to have that news. And then what caused you, like obviously there's a part of you that's like, I really shouldn't do this, but there's probably a much bigger part of you is, I'm going to do it. Obviously the I'm going to do it won.
Yeah, it definitely did. I really didn't want to be sent home. That was on the cards. I was told that the day after I got my scan, that they could send me home if it was really bad. And I remember obviously finding out I was in a different country as well, so I had my brother there, but you know, mum and dad are usually the ones there to kind of comfort you when you're sad and things like that. And when they first told me after I got the scan, because we were in Switzerland, the way they explained it didn't make it sound that bad. And it wasn't until I got on the phone to the Australian doctors back home, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, it's pretty bad." And I was like, devastated.
Well, good on you for coming back from it, and good on you for pushing through in a sense that, I mean, yes, we've all been there in a sense where we've heard some news that we don't want to hear, and we kind of select here what we want to hear. But look, having your brother there, and that means all the more now hearing that you've just said that before you walked out on the track, your brother said, have fun. That's pretty special. Like, I don't know any other situation where that has happened, but brilliant stuff. Now we've got the very lovely Ariana. She's from Waverley Christian School. She's been waiting patiently on the line. Ariana, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
No problem. Our pleasure. Now you're out at Waverley there. So what do you enjoy race walking? Do you play other sports, or do you do race walking yourself?
I just do race walking and athletics, yeah.
Nice. What do you enjoy about race walking?
It's just so unusual and different to all the other sports. And I like it when I tell other people about it and they tell me, "I've never heard about this. What is this?" And when I explain it to them, they're really shocked. But yeah, it's just really unusual and I like it.
It is unusual, and every person we've had on today has said the same thing, haven't they, Rachel, that this is an unusual sport. And Rachel, when you're out training, do you get unusual looks? Because when you're at the track, obviously it kind of fits, like someone riding a bike in Lycra, it fits, but if they're in a cafe, it doesn't fit. When you're walking the streets in this hour that we're allowed to walk the streets, do you get odd looks, odd comments?
Occasionally I do. I actually live in Canberra now. I moved here to train at the Australian Institute of Sport, and we actually had a very big race walking program here with the likes of Nathan Deeks, Jane Saville, my brother, all of those big names. And so I think the people in Canberra maybe don't think it's as odd as elsewhere, because they're so used to seeing us training. I know when I would go to uni, people would be like, "I've seen you, you're a walker. I see you walking all the time." And so I get more of those kind of comments, which is really good. Probably more than there is always the occasional odd stare though. There was one lady the other day walking her dog that just kept staring at me.
That would be interesting.
But yeah, Canberra, I feel like they're almost used to us now.
Brilliant. Now, Ariana from Waverley Christian College, what's your question for Rachel?
My question is, what does your typical training week look like, and do you do any cross training?
Oh, I love this question. Yes, I do a lot of cross training. I think it's one thing I've been talking about a lot, because I'm a little bit different to a lot of athletes. I do unfortunately get a fair few injuries. I've learnt that I probably can't do as many kilometres in the 1 week as everyone else. Over the years, I've learnt to love the gym. I probably have my old gym coach, Janine, to thank for that. But a typical week would probably be, I do 2 speed sessions a week on a Monday and a Friday. And I do 2 long walks on a Wednesday and a Saturday. They're like 20 to 25 kilometres long, so we can walk around our race distance and a bit further. I go for 1 to 2 runs, and then the rest is filled with gym, circuits, bike sessions. Growing up, I did a lot of swimming, and I'm told to swim a lot now as well, but I tend to only do that when I feel like it.
That's a great question, Ariana. Do you have another question?
Not really. Just, do you enjoy race walking? Have you always enjoyed it?
I have. I've always enjoyed doing it. And I know, because I know a lot of people say it's unusual and odd, and why would you choose a sport like this one? But I always think back to my 7-year-old self, the little girl walking up and down my family's hallway, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else at the time. And why would you want to tell someone so little that? Why wouldn't you want to do a sport that you enjoy? So yeah, I've always loved doing it.
The enjoyment factor is so important. And Ariana, you do whatever you can to continue to foster enjoyment in your sport with whatever sport you do. Hopefully it's race walking in the future, but if it's anything else, make sure you really enjoy it, because that, as Rachel will tell you, that fuels you to get through the difficult times, the injuries. It's easy to be loving it when you're winning medals, but when you're not winning medals, that fun aspect has to come through thick and fast.
Helps with training too.
Thank you very much.
No
Thanks
worries.
heaps for joining us. You've been lovely to have on the show. Hopefully we'll get you on a future show. Just click that link and submit it for next shows that we've got coming up.
Thank you.
That was a great question. Now, so Rach, what have you done to foster fun and keep fun going? Because I'd imagine there'd be correct me if I'm wrong, a small element of your drive, or maybe a large element of your drive, is the fact that you've got your big brother who's, gone there and done that and got the t-shirt, and you look up to him, and I know you have a really good relationship with him too, which is really special. But what have you done to foster that love and fun aspect?
I think I add the fun into my training a lot, whether it be making sure that I'm training with a really good kind of support network of other kind of athletes that enjoy the same things. But then, of course, just doing and adding different things into my training as well. I know, I love the walking part of it, and I love probably my long sessions are probably my favorite ones to do, because I love getting to the end of a 20 or 25k walk and just feeling so accomplished at the end of it. But of course, probably one of my other favorite things to do in training is actually some of my circuit sessions in the gym, and just adding in random things and adding in different goals and stuff like that all the time. Since learning a little bit more about my body, I can do things that I couldn't do before, like chin-ups and things like that, just being fit and healthy it makes me happy.
I'm sure, and that sounds really good that you've been able to foster that. We've got another invited guest, the last one for today, Catherine, who's joined us. Just let me get Catherine onto the screen. Catherine is from Middle Park Primary School. How are you, Catherine?
Good, thanks.
That's
Great
good.
to be here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And Rachel, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, Catherine, what is it that you love about race walking?
It's great to watch. It's loads of fun.
Very good. Now, what's your question for Rachel?
What food do you eat before you train and compete?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. So I am one of those unfortunate people who I like to say that I have a very weak stomach. So I've finished many races and sessions where if I've eaten something before, it might end up on the side of the road. Before training, particularly before my walking sessions, if I'm walking in the morning, I actually don't have anything to eat beforehand. Otherwise, I have to get up really, really early to have, I'd probably have just some plain toast with, say, some jam or some Vegemite. If it's in the afternoon, I make sure I just have a long break before my afternoon session between meals. And I might have some kind of like carbs, so, like a sandwich with the bread or some pasta. But before a race, I actually have, and this is a bit of an odd one, I have Cocoa Pops.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think that's going to go on the shopping list for mum shopping now with Catherine's mum.
It's actually my dietitian, Louise Burke at the AIS. She got me onto it, and what it does, eating certain types of food, and Cocoa Pops is actually one of them. What it does is, because it doesn't have a lot of fiber in it, it means that before a 20k walk, I can kind of clear out everything that's kind of in my tummy, so that when I go to race, because sometimes it can be a really long way, and I've had it happen to me once before, it means I don't have to stop to go to the toilet halfway through.
Oh, is that right? So this is not just a go-to food. There's actually logic and a dietitian's advice behind eating Cocoa Pops. That's really interesting.
Yeah, yep. So, yeah, I do. I actually really love it though. So competition ends up being a really good time because I think I start eating Cocoa Pops about 3 to 4 days beforehand in the morning, and I have other things that I have to eat as well. But they're just low fiber type things. So for lunches, I also get to eat ham and cheese sandwiches on white bread. And they all help kind of just with my tummy, so that I'm not having any problems come race day, because a 20k race can sometimes be a really long one, and when you're pushing yourself for a really long distance for a really long time, you don't want any of those types of things to kind of stop you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the toilet thing. That's an interesting answer, isn't it, Catherine?
Yeah, really. I thought you'd say banana because I've asked a lot of people that question and they always say banana.
I knew she was going to bring this up.
Oh, no,
Every time.
opposite.
Now, every time, Rachel, we ask someone this question, Catherine's come on quite a number of shows and asked the question, 9 times out of 10, in fact, only 1 out of 20 has, 2 now, including you, has said bananas. Everyone else has said bananas.
Yeah. I do eat bananas normally. I have them in my smoothie after training. But yeah, in the lead up to a competition, I get to snack on all the really yummy things. I even get to eat jelly beans as my snacks during the day as well. So there's a little, thank you.
Very good. Hey, thanks for joining us, Catherine. I'm sure we'll see you next week or some other time. What was that?
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining us, and I'm sure you'll get lots more out of the rest of the short interview we've got here.
Thanks.
Great answers there. Now, we've had a few comments come in, but one come from Wayne Pert. Well done, Rach. Who's your favourite uncle? You have to say him.
I feel like if I say him, that'll be mean to Mum.
That's right. It'll be recorded and played to you at Christmas. Just going back to diet and your injury as well. Does diet play a part in the injury prevention for you now? Like knowing yourself as well as you know now, what is it about diet that helps you prevent yourself from being injured?
Yeah, so because a lot of the injuries that I've had, I don't think I've really ever had like muscle or ligament, tendon type injuries. They've all been more bone related. So obviously it has a lot to do with my calcium and vitamin D intake. So it's about, adding and making sure that you're not only having a nutritious diet filled with all of those different types of things, but learning where you might need a little bit more of something as well. And for me in particular, it's that calcium and things like that, and try and add it into my diet in other ways. So making sure even, I might have dairy in meals, but also making sure I'm snacking on the right types of things and foods as well.
Very good. Now, just quickly touching on your injuries as well, and obviously you've touched on the big one at Rio. What are some alarm bells for you now in terms of injury?
So I plan my training out so far in advance now that I know, I guess, what's happening in, say, a month to 2 months' time, just so that I know where I'm going and how I can kind of get there. I think one thing that kind of stopped me in the past was maybe trying to do too much, sometimes too soon, coming back from injuries, or thinking that I need to do more leading into races. So I definitely plan out my training a fair bit more in that sense. And it gets very technical. I have a lot of spreadsheets that tell me what I can and cannot do.
Yeah, I bet. So I guess what you're suggesting there is if you plan ahead and you're able to put in the strength and conditioning and the gym sessions and all of that, then you are sticking to a routine that's helping your body do what it needs to do. Is that right?
Yeah. And I guess because I'm a walker as well, it's about, because we need to walk 20 kilometres in a race, it's about making sure I have the right amount of rest afterwards and I have my easy weeks, and then when I am building back up, I don't just go straight back into full training, walking, 80, 100 Ks a week. I build back there and I gradually kind of introduce those sessions back in, because I think, and that's one thing that really has kind of stuck with me, because I do a lot of like up and down a lot, and it's making that transition nice and smooth.
Yes, I'd imagine so. Now, what's the future hold for Rachel? Like you're finishing or going to finish your Masters in psychology. Where do you hope that will take you?
So hopefully, I have 1 year left. I'm not sure how that's going to work if I want to make the Olympic team next year. But I'm hoping that once I finish, I can actually obviously get a job in that area. I'm doing my Masters in clinical psychology, so that'd be kind of where I'd want to head into. And I think for now, I'm kind of happy just following that path and seeing where it leads me, and getting more experience under my belt. But from what I've done so far and some of the clients that I've had and things like that and the people that I've worked with, I definitely do enjoy working with kids a fair bit. But of course, I've still got lots more things to do and experience in my life before I kind of make that decision up.
I'm sure you will be a fantastic psychologist, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in your practice. But we caught up with the AIS this morning actually as a team, SSV a team, Roz and Anthony, I think it was, who joined us, and they talked a lot about the mental health that they're going to be working with athletes. And look, at this time, obviously you've mentioned you're in Canberra, but it's not that much better than Melbourne in a sense. It's pretty tough what's going on around Australia. How do you think it's impacting from a professional, psychological point of view? How do you think it's affecting athletes in general?
Well, I'd say it's definitely having an impact, particularly for people who might not be able to train as much as they would like, or even go to the same facilities and things like that. But also, having those competitions that kind of what you aim for and the goals that you have set out. Like, I know, there's never been a year like this where we literally don't know what's on the horizon. So I'd say it is having a pretty big impact on athletes, particularly, athletes, when it comes to, the Olympics. There were some athletes that might plan on retiring after the Olympics, and, they've had to weigh up going for a whole nother year before that happens. I know my brother is getting a bit old nowadays. So yeah, it has had a big impact, but I think that's where a lot of us have really had to come together, and it's about, staying in contact during this time, and although our goals might be different, still having goals to kind of work towards, whether it be in training or just, getting up out of bed and just, getting changed, getting dressed, and doing things throughout the day.
So true. And when you, I don't know what you're like, but casting my mind back to March when people were starting to talk about the Olympics not happening, I'm like, don't be silly. That's just why are we making that decision now? And now we look at it and go, that was the right decision. But there is I don't want to be the bearer of bad news or look at it negatively, but there is a cloud over whether Tokyo 2021 will happen as it is. That's not coming from my own opinion. That's certainly a school of thought that's out there. People just don't know what's going to happen with travel, or even worse, the competition leading up to, because you can't just get in the green and gold and compete at Tokyo. You need the competition leading up to it to get it match ready, so to speak. That must be, is that daunting for you?
It is, because obviously, I haven't been selected for Tokyo, and I still need to compete and kind of do the best I can to increase my chances of being selected. But at the same time, that's where I've had to think about, what if it doesn't go ahead, or what if those opportunities are so limited that I can't get selected, and making sure that I have other things that I can do in the back of my mind, because it will be disappointing, of course, missing out if I do miss out, but making sure that I kind of have a fallback and I know what I'm going to be doing in the long run. So one of those things is actually just finishing my degree, spending the whole year to finish my degree and get that out of the way, so that I can focus on coming back and being better than I was before.
That is very good. That's you've got your head screwed on right, that's for sure. You're a very wise young woman to have that forethought to go, I need something that is a fallback or a plan B. And let's face it, Masters in Psychology is definitely an amazing plan B, because mental health is an issue in our country and lots of countries, but it is an issue that is certainly on the rise in terms of education, and people are more aware of it. So pretty exciting stuff for the future for you, and who knows, you might even be working with emerging athletes in the future too, so marry the two together.
Yeah, we'll see.
Look, thanks heaps for joining us today. You've been a fantastic person. You're a great role model, and I can see that you love working with kids by the way you engage with the ones that we had on board. Good luck with your future. We'll continue to champion you, and you're actually I don't know if you know this. I know you do know this. You're actually the poster girl, and Jared's the poster boy of our Walk Like a Tallent. It's a beautiful story to have a brother and sister who have both made Team Vic. And look, we just love, I think I bug you because I post every day and I tag you in it and tag Jared in it and tag them all in it. So, and your support for that has been really good. But we're getting lots of kids out there walking, and really that's the name of the game. Trying something different, trying something new, getting out in your hour when you can and competing, and not have to do it at a track, just do it on the road, do whatever you can. But it's pretty exciting stuff. We've had just shy of 1,700 entries in 2 weeks, which is massive for us. And we are looking at probably being around 2,000 mark by Monday. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, incredible.
Very good. Hey, thanks heaps for joining us. Sorry, say again.
I said it's great to see so many kids out there moving.
It is, yeah, it is. Now, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the future. And again, like I said, we're going to continue to champion you and your cause. Brilliant work, young lady. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you.